After dabbling in Skate U.
Yeah, Skate U got a job directly out of there at Sun Microsystems. Chose that. Microsoft had jobs, a couple other AMS tech stuff. Here's the qualification at Sun Microsystems. They came on campus and gave a talk. The gentleman says, our drug policy is don't do drugs at work. And our dress code policy is if you wear a tie, you're liable someone's going to pull on it and maybe hang you up with it. So I said, this is the place I want to work. Got a job at Sun Microsystems in Broomfield, worked there for about 2 years, smoked a lot of weed with all the tech support cats that we were working with, lots of weed smoking in the tech industry, and realized quickly that I liked people way more than computers, and what the fuck was I doing? Had a meltdown with my mom at work on the support line. I called her. I'm crying, literally crying. What the fuck am I doing with my life, Mom? I hate everything. What is going on? And she's like, well, you're 25 years old. You're 23 at the time. What do you like? And I was like, yeah, you're right.
Fucking losing your mind.
Yeah, you're right. Like, what the hell? Like, I'm just going to do something different. Looked around the room for a little bit. I'm like, you know what? None of these people are lawyers. I'm going to law school. So
that's what this world needs.
Took the LSAT, figured out that I really just wanted to entrepreneur. All the entrepreneurs had to go pay the business lawyers to set up all the stuff that was going on. So I was just going to shortchange the system, get in there real quick, get my business law degree, and then go back to entrepreneuring, which is what I did. Smoked a lot more weed during law school.
And just
was
read
in Boulder.
A lot? Just high and read?
Kept going through it, right? You know, it was really no problem. We didn't keep me from doing any of that stuff. I mean, went and crushed it out, passed the bar, you know, ended up practicing law, helping entrepreneurs. I had a rule for my law practice. I didn't want to go work for big firms or anything like that, but I wanted to help people unplug from the system, right? Like weird little batteries in the giant economy, and that's all we're seen as. Go to school, go to college, do this so you can be another little cell battery. As the other Duracells are getting old and retiring, I need more batteries in the shelf. We're not getting recycled. It's a harmful process. So for myself, I just wanted to get into a position where I could empower more people to unplug. If you could start your own business, you'd be more in tune with your community because you need your community to support you. You're going to make better decisions about your employees. You're going to make better decisions about your neighbors. And you're going to be a better neighbor yourself. So the communities are. So I was like, I could start little fires all around that are kicking ass. So I started my business laws called the Basics Group, and I had a rule. If your business did $1 million, not profit, revenue, gross revenue, if you did over $1 million, you were not eligible. I wasn't going to work with you. This was only for people that were trying to get that next leg up. Well, that was in 2008 and 2009. The economy was tanking, right?
Shit.
Tanking.
So everybody qualified?
So guess who starts calling?
Companies that were previously generating over $1 million in revenue?
The Cole memo came out. Ogden memo. Obama. Marijuana is not going to be prosecuted. So all of the people start calling, hey man, I got an underground grow in my basement, but I want to sell in. I want to hire somebody. None of the lawyers I've called will do a partnership agreement. Nobody will do an employment agreement. I want to lease out this small warehouse, but I have to get a lease, but no lawyers will help me. I want to form an LLC to make this thing legit. I want to pay taxes. So pretty soon I had 40 or 50 clients that were old school growers or distributors that wanted to participate in an above ground economy that the Obama administration and Colorado through its 2000 constitutional amendment was saying you can participate. But there were very few attorneys that would help out at the time. There were a couple guys out there, Warren Edson, Rob Corey, a couple guys that were constitutional lawyers and criminal lawyers. There were only a handful at the time, myself, Christian Cederberg, that was a year older than me from the same law school at CU, that were sort of business attorneys that started taking these things on. Luckily, there were 5 or 6 of us within the first year that started working on this stuff. But that's how I met a lot of the people that I still know and cherish to this day that were allowed, I can't tell you on the podcast for obvious reasons, but that were allowed for the first time to tell somebody their whole story and know that they weren't going to get in trouble because they had privilege with me. And I'm telling you what, like some of the most
can tell us
colorful
those stories. No one's
stories.
listening. It's just
Nobody's
us.
listening. It's just us right here.
Jane used pseudonym.
Yeah, that's FBI agent Bob.
There was some crazy ass shit going down in 2009, but most of it were by legitimate people just straight up shaking down fucking cannabis growers. Just shaking them down, stealing their businesses, writing dirty contracts, screwing these guys over, man. It was
And they couldn't do
it was
anything.
horseshit.
They couldn't go to any
No. And at first, the courts wouldn't even keep the contracts.
Mob? Is there a mob? Because that's how organized crime really came to fruition. Was these neighborhood people were being shaken down by somebody else, so there was somebody you could go to. Are you saying that you are the consigliere and or the mafioso's lawyer? I want to know.
I am
these
certain
questions.
I never said that.
You didn't have to,
In
sir.
fact, we have a saying amongst my peer group. I never did say that.
Yeah, you and Ray Lewis both, right?
All right, were these calls coming in from all over the state?
Yes, absolutely.
So how far is y'all's reach? I know you're a mobster.
My network runs deep.
And we can take this out if you are in fact mafia. Just pull in your ear if you're mafia.
So how long were you
I've seen that episode of The
How long
Office.
were you helping these small guys before you got into the game?
So all of 2009 and the first half of 2010, I worked with probably 40 or 50 different groups that were in the legal business. They were either growing and selling to dispensaries, or they owned dispensaries, or they were merging and trying to get city licenses, zoning, all of that stuff. I met my partner, Reed, who has a long history in Boulder, and many of the people, here were able to work with him for years, and he's got plenty of clout in the canna game. I met him at a meeting that we were trying to merge my client's business with his. He didn't like the client I was working with. He didn't like his attorney either. Called me afterwards and said, I don't want to do any of that shit, but I want you to be my attorney, and I'd like to do business with you. 4 or 5 months later, we partnered in Green Dream here in Boulder, which we eventually ended up winning a couple Cannabis Cup first place with here in the High Times, and we're known as one of those destination spots with elite genetics and cultivated with love and sold with all the personality and affection that you could give. And I took care of the retail. Reed did all the cultivation. When that happened, I couldn't keep practicing law. But, that's when I had to go to my wife. At that time, guys, literally I had to look at my wife. I had 2 brand new babies. My girls are 11 months apart, Irish twins. Forgot how I got the first one, which is how I got the second one. Then I realized how it happens. Waited 5 years till I got the third one. Right. Didn't never go to biology. So learned that lesson. But I had 2 little girls living down in Inglewood in Colorado, where I was living at the time, off Hamden and Broadway, down by Swedish Hospital. And I came home to my wife and said, look, I don't appreciate how people get treated that smoke weed. I don't like the fucking stereotypes. I don't like the bullshit that comes down on these people. And I can say that I'm a lawyer and I can help these people so much. But when I go out and I tell people at the country club if I'm going to golf, or I'm at some business meeting, or I'm at some bar association, people don't take me seriously. They think that I'm in it because I get money. And no one's going to believe me that I'm really in it because I believe it and I live it until I fucking step over the line. And that's when I gave Christian Cederberg the clients that I had left remaining, moved them over there, and came in full in. And then in those same conversations, they're like, oh, you're a lawyer, you work there. I said, no, I own a cannabis business. I sell weed for a living. And then there was no way for them to overlook it or excuse it. They had to look me in the face and be like, but you're somebody who's educated. But you're somebody that I formally respected. What do I do right now? How do I treat this? And barriers and boundaries started being broken down. And I was just one person talking to my social network. But there were hundreds and thousands of us doing that at the time in Colorado and some in California, but the regulations weren't there. I mean, fingerprints, background checks, all the things. I was fully legit and exposed. I had to give powers of attorney to the state of Colorado that they could just submit an affidavit or this power of attorney to anyone, to Verizon. Be like, oh, he signed it. I want 5 years of his cell phone records. You had to sign that free and have it notarized just to come into the game.
You're telling me that your nudes could be leaked at any time?
100%.
That's dangerous, brother. I don't trust the government as far as I can throw.
No, but the question is how else were we going to do this? How else were we going to do this and normalize this plant?
I mean, we're ideas guys. We're not solutions guys.
So when you went full into the game, did you have like some old lawyer friends and stuff that kind of viewed you differently once like talking about breaking down the stereotypes and things like that?
There were a couple that never really quite got over it, but the most of them had to look themselves in the mirror. That's the truth of it.
Still there? Like, would you say like we were kind of talking about it on our way up here? Is the connotation still there? You seem like, you know, alcohol and tobacco companies are now investing in these, you know, trying to get their hands into the pot.
I mean,
legitimizing the operations nationwide? Do we have to wait on the sitting president to do something?
It's a mixed bag, and this is what I will say. There is still work to be done by a long shot. I said it a long time ago in 2010 that unfortunately the only thing that normalizes anything in this country is profits. And unfortunately, cannabis is going to have to produce profits before it can be normalized, and it'll have to be turned into an industry because that is the vehicle and the methodology that profits that are made for people to normalize and accept it. And that is a sad state of affairs to all the people that wanted this to be mom and pop and wanted it to go down that road and be idealistic. I believed in them, and I support that. But I also was realistic, saying I don't think that's going to get the job done. Certainly not in the next 10 years from 2010 to 2020. So have we normalized business and industry and profits to some extent? Yes, we have. The consumers, to some extent, are still somewhat marginalized. And let's be real right now. Shout out to all the people out there still trying to get folks out of fucking jail for selling weed or smoking weed or buying fucking weed. Because that's the goddamn bullshit, that the travesty that still exists today that very few people are talking about or dealing with. So have we come a long way? Yes, of course. Did we have to take a step to the right to the business section to get the light bulb turned on and to start going down this? You know, maybe not, but I believe so. But we still got work to do to normalize, to get people out of incarceration and get back on the streets, expunging. There's a lot of cities going after it, but the federal government has to step in, but they're not going to do it until they normalize the industry. And so we've still got a couple steps to go. I don't want to die on the cross, man. Like I want to push things forward, but I also want to be realistic about it, you know, and sometimes that comes with compromise. I teach my kids to do it amongst themselves. You know, you can't be idealistic all the time and get everything that you want. You can try, but it honestly is just going to lead to a lot of heartache. Now, I also am not one that just wants to bend over and give up on all your ideals. That's not, you know, the right thing either, which is why, you know, I got the brand that I have that's rooted in smoking weed in the 90s. We say we're flower people. We mean that, both flower power, and I love to smoke the shit. Like, I believe those ideals are good and valid, but I have to take them in context of 2019 and where the world is at.
Well, when you say to like normalize it, you mentioned profit. So it's not so profitable right now, or what's?
No, anyone that sells drugs knows that you can make a lot more money selling coke than you can weed. That's what he's trying to say.
Anything illegal and you sell, you're going to make way more money. But my point is that you watch the public companies show up to the game. You watched Wall Street show up to the game. That's what I meant. I don't mean a guy that owns a dispensary and brings home $30,000 clear each month and is starting to save some college money for his kids. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about people making billions of dollars off of cannabis,
when do you think that will
selling
happen?
Securities. It is happening right now in Canada on the exchanges. I mean, there are plenty of companies that have sold. Not all of it is cash money. A lot of it is stock. It's fake money, right? Like, we live in an economy where the product isn't the product. The security is the product. And that's another thing that I can't fucking stand and railed against, and is part of the reason I went to law school and what I came out of. Like, what happened to entrepreneurs who actually wanted to build a good? Instead of every entrepreneur
that's Chris, and this
only
is
wanting to build a stock to sell. Stocks can help. I mean, look, a market's a market, and economies are good, and people have made money, and I got 529s for my kids to go to college. I'm not a hater, but that can't be the sole purpose. of entrepreneuring. It can't be this. I mean,
Our goal is to enjoy what we do. We don't mind however much money we'll make in the process. That's fine, but we're enjoying the ride is the objective that we
I appreciate that.
We get to drink and eat around town.